On October 3rd, 2020, I had a spinal infarction, a blood clot. A blood clot that cut off the oxygen supply to my spinal cord, causing long-term damage. Since then, I haven't been able to walk effectively. Before, I was so confident. I was really fit, and nothing really felt like it was out with my capabilities. This spinal cord injury has taken that all away from me. What does that make me now? So, in this film, I want to talk to people who are in a similar position as I am. I want to find the common themes of dealing with an SCI. How does someone cope with an SCI? How have other people found a way to kind of feel more them? And hopefully, what I've learned will help me find a way to kind of put me back on track.
Stephen Curry. I'm 38, 39 next week. I was injured about 4.5 years ago, August 2017, and it was in an amateur cycle race. Basically went off the road and crashed and landed on my head. On impact, I was paralysed from the neck down.
I got my injury in 1999, May 1999. Went out and drink was involved. I was at the top of the stairs. I wasn't very sure if I was hit or I fell. Because obviously I woke up in the hospital with a fractured skull, with a clot in the brain, a broken neck C5, 6 incomplete, and a clot in the spinal cord.
Obviously that would take some kind of effect and adjustment coming home. So like what was coming home like for you?
It's definitely an eye-opener as to what you really can't do yet. It's a big reality check. I was very lucky in the fact that I could walk, but I was still nervous going up and down stairs, getting in and out of vehicles.
Especially like because of COVID, because a lot of the times you don't really see your family because of the shutdown. So you can kind of pretend it's just a different life altogether. Then as soon as you get into the real world, that's when it kind of just smacks you, right? Oh, this is now permanent. I have to live the rest of my life like this.
When I was out of the hospital, I just needed to see what people's reaction was about someone in a wheelchair. And some of it was good and some of it wasn't. Obviously, it was quite a scary aspect. Plus I had my kids to look after. So it was like that aspect of you're going to go home, your kids are going to look after you. And I thought, no, that's not happening. That's happening. One time they wouldn't let me out because my kids were going to go in a home. And I was going to go in a home. I said, that's not happening either. So it was that big fight I had of keeping the kids together. It is nice being in the hospital because it's that nice wee bubble where everything's done for you, everything's there and everything's on hand. You have a false hope when you're in the hospital. You don't realise how hard it is when you come out of the hospital. I lost a lot with the head injuries. I lost my emotions. When I first had my head injury, I didn't remember my kids. So in a way, having the head injuries, I wouldn't say I had it as hard as you because there's a lot of things I forgot. Because you'll remember everything, there's some things I don't remember.
Do you think it's affected you socially in any particular way?
I used to be a skater and snowboarder, so a lot of my friends are skaters back up north and I can't really hang out with them much because they go into Glasgow and go skating. I can't really see them because they're quite busy. A few come and see me now and again, but not that often.
So this was kind of twofold for me. At the very start, I obviously couldn't go out and meet my cycling mates or my running mates.
Right.
You know, I've seen them a fraction of what I used to.
Yeah. How do you find going out? Is it something you find stressful? Is it something you have to build yourself up for?
If it's by myself, something I have to build myself up for, I have to kind of like spend half an hour kind of going, right, you need to go out, you need to get a walk in. But if it's with like my girlfriend or with my parents, it kind of just happens spontaneously. You can really just go out whenever. It's kind of like if I'm with someone, I'm okay. But if I'm by myself, it's not. If there's potholes on the roads or even on the pavement, you've got no chance. You're going to fall through that. Even with crutches, like you can feel a bit of the unevenness of like a pavement. And like some people are just walking is absolutely fine, but you can feel it. You feel like you're like Mission Impossible and you're like on a side. Whilst, and the same with the crutches, whilst when you're walking, like before my accident, it would feel like normal.
General accessibility issues are a problem. You know, I think that contributes a lot to what makes you not feel like you. It's one of those things that highlights how not normal you are and can sometimes make it feel like you're just in a world that's not built for you. A lot of places, it very much literally is not built for you. Speaking about pavements and potholes and steps getting into like restaurants, it does make you feel pretty regularly like you don't belong, or that it's a burden to get you in somewhere, or it's a burden to go somewhere because certain places you just can't get in without someone else's help or someone else moving something for you.
Well, for me, earlier on in my injury, obviously rougher ground was harder, and temperature was a big thing. You know, as soon as it gets cold, my legs just stiffen right up. They don't move as well. I prepare myself more now when it's cold.
Would you say that people's perception of you is more of a problem?
Yeah, I think, very thankfully, I didn't really have that issue socially. I would obviously get very self-conscious because I couldn't walk properly. Mm-hmm. For example, as soon as I went back, started to go back to work, I would have to try and walk across the open plan office to get a cup of tea and coffee. Walking back with a cup of tea in my hand, shaking, stumbling, spilling it all over myself. That wasn't nice. Later down the line, when I tried to run or jog, it just looked like a drunken thunderbird, and I had to get over any self-consciousness about that. But I still, to this day, get some funny looks.
People do look, always. People always look, but it's just because you, like anyone, if you look different in any way, you'll attract eyes. That's just how it goes.
It's quite hard as well going out for a walk, just to even get a bit of confidence to go out for a walk by yourself, because there's some people that just look at you and judge you and think like, oh, why is he like this? Why is he like that? It's not really that fun. In public, if it's like an older person, like someone who's in the 30s and plus, and they just stare you down, you're like, right, clearly you should have seen someone in a wheelchair by now in like the 30 years you've been alive on this planet. Why is this not normal to you? I've actually tested it with my walking sticks and my crutches. With my crutches, people just think I've broken a leg. With my walking sticks, they then actually think I'm actually disabled. And I don't understand the difference between crutches and walking sticks.
Do you find that people treat and talk to you differently?
Yeah, 100%. Even using my crutches, it can be quite bad because some people will actually talk to my girlfriend instead of me, and they'll go, oh, how's he doing? And my girlfriend goes, he's standing, he's right there, you can talk to him face to face. Sometimes I'm even taller than the person, and they'll just talk to my girlfriend. And I'm like, well, I'm here too, I'm not just an object.
A lot of people can kind of treat you like a kid.
Especially if you're with someone, they treat you like a kid. It's like them talking to a parent about the kid, and you're just like, I'm human. Talk to me, I'm 20 years old, I'm not a child anymore, I can talk for myself. My parents have done that a lot, where they just say to someone, talk to him, not to me.
People's initial reaction to people in a chair is quite strange. You know, it's like we hold like a weird anxiety towards it, or like we're not really sure how to approach it. I used to be like that when I was like mobile and I could walk and stuff like that, but you just don't really know how to act, and it probably is just due to a lack of exposure. Very few people have people with wheelchair in their lives. I think that's probably what it is. The very nature of it being not normal makes them uneasy, and they don't know how to act. It's probably what it is. What I can take from that probably is that it's probably going to have to be me that makes it normal. I'm going to have to try and approach other people. I'm going to have to try and be the one who engages. As soon as they hopefully realise that I talk normal and act normal, that they'll feel a bit more ease.
I can understand why people are a bit delicate, because they might not know your situation. They might be like, oh, he's a bit fragile about it. Maybe it was a bad thing. Maybe it was like a domestic violence incident. But when I just go, oh yeah, I fell off a waterfall, I'm stupid. They then go, all right, okay, I'm fine to talk to you about it. If they ask like, oh, what have you done to yourself? Like, how has this happened? And like they're genuinely curious about your injury. I don't see a problem with telling them, oh yeah, I fell off a waterfall, I've got a spinal injury. There's no issues in it if they ask nicely.
I did go to a pub not long after I got out of hospital. I had a few pints like I used to. Alcohol, I just can't deal with it anymore. My body just goes to shit. Excuse my language. And ever since then, I've just had to watch what I'm doing, watch who I'm with. My mates, it's funny, my mates obviously, when I'm sitting with them or standing with them, I don't look really any different. But then if we're on a night out and I'm walking from one place to the other, and I'm going at half the speed there, most of them have realise, and they'll go, alright, okay, and they'll check their speed, and they'll not walk away from me. But I have been in situations where, like, guys they just don't know. They don't really know the magnitude of the effect of the injury.
Well, yeah, I was lucky because my son, they would take me out if I wanted to get me out. They'd say, "Oh, come on, Mary." Or his pals as well. I'm talking about young men, 19, 20, just dragging me along because I think they felt sorry for me. And they weren't embarrassed. It was really nice that they invited me out with them. I was quite pleased. Made me feel like a human being. And I did drink a bit too much because it was like I wanted to believe, I wanted to belong. But the bad side effects is unbelievable, as you know yourself.
The first Hogmanay I had after injury, we went to a big party and it was a ceilidh. I can't remember if it was near the end of the night or what, but me and my wife were in the middle of the floor, and obviously she's drunk, having a good time and stuff. And I didn't want to be a party pooper and stand at the side, so I tried to get into the middle of the floor with her and do a bit of trying to dance. And then it got busy because they were running into the middle and back out. Yeah, mentally I was like, oh, I'm gonna get crushed here and I'm gonna get pushed over and stood on. And I had to leave the dance floor, like get away to the side, out of the rush. And
you just suddenly felt fragile.
Oh, massively. Massively.
Since the hospital, what's been like the best kind of motivator?
To be honest, kind of stuff slowly coming back to me. I think 2 weeks after I came out of hospital, my ankle started moving and my toes started moving, and they said I would never get anything below my knees ever again. And I think that's what's kept me going, is kind of knowing that stuff's still improving every day. That's why I still do physio. I'll still like go out for a walk every day. Because if they just told me, no, that's it, if you kind of didn't see an improvement in yourself, you'd kind of just think, that's me. I'm just going to sit and do nothing and let myself rot. If you then see yourself improving because you put a little bit of work in, you kind of just keep going. And I think as well, like family, friends and relationships, that drives you. Because when they start seeing a little bit of improvement, they'll, like at least my family, but they'll keep pushing you until you go, oh, I'm all of a sudden I'm getting better. Like I've only been doing physio for 5 months. And I went from fully relying on my crutches to now being able to take 10 steps without anything, without any supports whatsoever. Only a couple of weeks ago I managed to walk with one crutch and have a cup of coffee in my hand. Like for the first time since my injury, I managed to take it from the kitchen into the living room and sit on the couch with a cup of coffee. To a normal person, that's just something they do on the daily basis. But whilst with like someone who has a spinal injury, that's like massive. Like I remember I was almost in tears just taking a cup of coffee into the room, because I was like, that's the first time I've done that in like 2-3 years.
My main criteria was my kids. That's what kept me going, pushed me along. As I said to you beforehand, and when I was in the hospital, I was feeling suicidal, which we majority of us do, and I was just sitting there, and my youngest son come in, flung his arms around me, and he says, mate, you might be a broken mum, but you're my mum and I love you. And I thought, he doesn't care if I've got 2 heads. All he wants is his mum to be there to cuddle him, and it was that simple to me. It gave me what I needed. That's the scary aspect as well, because you're always thinking social workers are going to take the back off you.
Yeah.
So you're inclined to be more like you're trying to prove to them, I can do this, I can do that. You have to stop taking your drugs, because a lot of our drugs make us sleepy. Because so you've got to be 20, there's this two-sided edge to that. They'll say to you, oh, we'll help you. But if something happens to the child, you're the adult, so you're responsible. So it's that kind of, you're in catch-24, you want to, so you overprove yourself. I've got to be up in the morning, I've got to be at school, I've got to be at every meeting, every school meeting. So if you take responsibility, it means responsibility. I mean, like for instance, my daughter had an accident. I couldn't get in the ambulance, which is what a normal person or a guardian would do, would want to get in the ambulance with the child. So I had to follow in a taxi, so that was like more money.
In terms of your capability, for example, after coming out of the hospital, do you think that just having that responsibility pushed you to improve?
Yes.
Like, so much?
Yep. It made me want to look after myself. There's a lot of things I could do with my body that you probably wouldn't know what to do, like manipulation, like light weights, like aerobics, like yoga, things you could put in, not biggies, but would help the body and keep it supple and keep it mobile as much as you can. I have to do an hour every morning. I can't go by without doing an hour, because my spasm will take me back into that position. So it's got to be, it can be quite strenuous and tired and frustrating and make you angry, because obviously you want to be able to just jump out the bed.
Mary's probably right. There's the whole morning aspect for people with an SEI is completely different from everyone else. Most of us have to go through some kind of routine with our bowels to keep them regular and avoid accidents. There's also a lot of stretching and kind of physio stuff to try and not even necessarily make us better, make the day more bearable. Like if I wasn't to stretch, my spasms would increase and I would be way less comfortable, way less capable of doing things, say carrying stuff or holding a cup of coffee. The whole morning routine thing can be really frustrating. It gets really tedious. Every day has to be the same. You get up at a certain time and you go to the toilet at the same time every day, and there's just this kind of set hour or two where everything has to be the same and there's almost no leeway around that. There is, but there can be pretty bad consequences to that. These kind of maintenance things are just non-negotiable. It really gets to me sometimes.
And another aspect is the fear. When you're out, you might have like me, because I've got leg bags.
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole aspect. What if I have an accident?
Mm-hmm.
The whole smelly thing, or the whole, what do you call it? It's that kind of fear, and sometimes that can hold you back. Mm-hmm. Going to the pub or to dances or to what, because you get too drunk. You'll forget about your back. You know what I mean? You can guarantee you'll end up peeing yourself, and somebody's going to make a comment, even though it's just out of, what's that smell I can smell? Mm-hmm. And they're not even at you. But you can really make you feel so down, and then you won't go back out again because somebody's just made a comment.
In my head, I am the same person, but physically, that same person can't be fulfilled.
Yep.
Under the same conditions.
Yeah. I think I could say the same. I think I have accepted it in a lot of ways. If I'd accepted it fully, physically, I wouldn't do rehab, I wouldn't train, I wouldn't want to be stronger. But then again, I kind of always was like that before. Mm-hmm. It has gone up and down, with motivation. You just think, what's the point?
Yeah.
Some days. Then sometimes you see something, you see a video or you see somebody else a lot worse than you, and you think, well, why am I not trying? Or you set yourself a goal and you just work towards that. Mm-hmm. That was tend to what I do.
But what kind of stuff is it that you got up to pre-injury? I know you did football.
So I done football, I used to skate, snowboard, and I was starting to get into surfing as well. They were skating and snowboard was kind of my passion. That was what I did in my spare time. If I wasn't in college or in school, I was out at the skate park and I was with my friends, and that was that. Which this injury has changed quite a bit, and I've kind of more focused on my career. So I'm more focused on filming and doing photography now than I did skateboarding. Sometimes I will get quite sad if I hear a skateboard or if I see a skate park, so I could be like, oh man, I wish I could go do that again. But then you realise, well, at least I'm alive. I mean, at least I'm living, and at least I'm doing stuff that I still like, instead of having to completely divert my life and change everything I do.
You said you're super into skating and you've still got your chair. Maybe consider getting into, I think they call it wheelchair motocross.
Yeah. My mum was so against that because she was like, "You've already had one accident off a waterfall. Let's not start. Let's not start that."
It does have a lot of potential for accidents.
I did actually say, because I was looking at canoeing. I was actually looking into it, and it was possible to do white water rafting, and my mum was sat there like, "Fuck no, you're not falling down waterfalls in a canoe. You've pretty much you're doing what you used to do, just safe." And I'm like, yeah, it looks fun. I'm starting to get into mono skiing now, so I'm doing lessons in a couple of weeks, just to kind of get the feel of being back on the snow from snowboarding. Yeah. And the hope is that I build enough leg strength that I can get back on a snowboard, because you don't need your ankles for a snowboard.
It's all hips and...
It's all hips and legs and upper body, which I have still. So my hope is to get into that, but it's just standing for a long period of time, which I cannot do yet. There's Paralympians. There's a guy who's got an L3 and he just doesn't have ankles, and he snowboards as a job actually in Do Tour and X Games and stuff like that. So I thought, oh well, it's totally possible. It's just building the strength to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all it is. It's possible. Just build the strength.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, especially in your case, if you're going to try and reclaim anything that was yours before, you should definitely be doing, wheelchair motocross. You should definitely be doing snowboarding. Definitely be skiing. Absolutely.
I need to keep reminding myself to be grateful. I know I shouldn't take it for granted. I'm still not close to what I was, but at the end of the day, I could be in a chair quite as easy. I feel like the more I make myself stronger at the moment, the better I feel about myself, and the less I remember what I used to be. It's never going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
There's always memories and photographs to look back on, but the better I make myself now, the better I feel.
If I want things to get better and I want things to improve, I think I just need to start doing things and stop worrying about what I can't do and figuring out what I can do and what I can improve. Taking active control again, grabbing things and being the person who's in control of me. A lot of my situation has made me feel like I can't control it because they took control away from me for a while. 5 months in hospital, control was completely removed from me. I think it's kind of conditioned me, at least for now, to just feel like there's nothing I can do, when there's definitely stuff I can do. There's definitely things I can be going out there and doing and taking advantage of, and being the person that I was, taking active responsibility for who I am and who I want to be. It's definitely a really strange one, because ultimately it comes down to that, in a weird way, at least in my case, just like I thought before when I was walking, the barriers are in your head. There is no real barriers. It's more about building yourself up and to find ways to get around them. Before I got fit and got into running and got into weights, the barriers were always there, but you have to be the one to go and actively find ways around them. And it takes time. So I just got to start kind of doing things. The ball's in my court, and it has been for quite a while. I just didn't realize I could play. I didn't realize I was still allowed to play. The game I was playing before is still there. I just have to find a new way of playing it.